Hi guys, this is Sanjay. In this video, we will try to understand what are fronts and how they are formed. Let's start. Basically, what is front and how it is formed? A front is defined as a sloping boundary between the two contrasting air masses having different physical properties. This means that whenever the two air masses moves in the opposite directions, they will meet at certain point. Let us consider this is the warm air mass and this is the cold air mass. The cold air mass coming from the polar region and the warm air mass is coming from the equatorial region or tropical region. When they will come near, then they do not mix up, they form a boundary between them, and this boundary what we call as front. And this boundary is sloping and it will never be like circle or it will never be like square, it will always be sloping. And the thickness of the boundary formed between these two contrasting air masses is depends upon the physical properties of these two air masses, like the temperature and pressure. If the temperature difference between the two air masses is more, then the front formed will be of larger size, and if the temperature difference between the two contrasting air masses is less, then the front formed will be of small size. Whenever the fronts are formed, then the warm air masses rises. As it rises in the upper layers, it cools down and it condenses and reaches saturation. After reaching saturation, it will form clouds and it will bring precipitation to the region where it formed. And usually where the fronts are formed, let us consider this is our earth and this is equator, and this is 30 degree and this is 60 degree and this is 90 degree. And the fronts are usually formed between 30 to 60 degree. They never form at the equator and they never form at the polar region. They will be formed between 30 to 60 degree north and south of the equator. They form between 30 to 60 degree north and south of the equator. The process of formation and development of front is what we call as frontogenesis. And they usually do not form at the tropical and polar regions. And the zone usually what we call as frontal zone, the zone formed between the two air masses is what we call as frontal zone. And they will never be vertical or horizontal, they always lie in a low angle, that is the sloping. Based on the characteristics of the fronts, we classify them into four types. The first one is warm front. Let us look how it is formed. A warm front is formed when the warm air becomes active and aggressive and enters into the territory of cold mass. Let us see what it means. Let us consider this is warm air mass and winds blowing in this direction, and this is cold air mass, the winds here also blowing in this direction. When they come closer, you know that the cold air mass is denser and heavier. When it comes closer to the colder air mass, the warm air mass unable to replace the cold air mass which is denser and heavier, so it will move like this. So it will move, rises up. As it rises up, it will be condensed and brings precipitation to this region, and the slope formed here will be the gentle slope. Here will be the gentle slope formed between the cold air mass and warm air mass, and this front is known as warm front. This is the cold air mass and this is the warm air mass. As it comes like this and moves above and forms the what we call as warm front, and it brings precipitation in this region. And next type is cold front. Let's see how this cold front is formed. And the cold front is formed when the cold air becomes active and aggressive and enters into the territory of the warm air. Let us see how it is formed. Let us consider this is the cold air mass coming from this direction, and let us consider this is warm air mass coming from this direction. As it moves forward and forward, they will come near, they will come closer. As you know that here which air mass becomes active, that is the cold air mass. As you know that the cold air mass is being heavier and denser, it occupies the territory of the warm air mass. So what happens is that the warm air mass started rising up, the warm air mass starts rising up. So here is the cold front is formed. Let us see how to dot the diagram. Let us consider this is the cold air mass, this is moving in this direction, and this is the warm air mass, this is moving in this direction. At certain point of time, the cold air mass, this is figure 1, and the in what happens in figure 2 is the cold air mass replaces the boundary of the warm air mass. So the warm air mass started rising like this. Warm air mass, it forces, it will not automatically rise up, the cold air mass forces the warm air mass to rise up. So what happens here, here the boundary formed is very steeper boundary formed. This is cold front, this is cold front, the boundary formed is steeper here, and it will create, the cold front will create bad weather conditions. It will bring very heavy rainfall, thunderstorms, and there will be lightning. And the third type of front is stationary front. Here how it is formed is that when two air masses moves parallel to each other, the stationary front is formed. Let's see how. uh, Let us consider this is cold air mass, and this is moving in this direction, and this is warm air mass, warm air mass, and this is also moving in this direction. This is figure 1, and in figure 2 what happens is the cold air mass is like that, and the warm air mass is moving like this. They move parallel to each other, there will be no occupying of one, they will not occupy each other's territory, they move parallel to each other. So the front form will stay here only, there will be no replacement. It will also bring some precipitation as the cold air moves up. So stationary front also brings some precipitation. And the next type is the occluded front. How occluded front is formed is means, this type of front is formed when the warm air mass is lifted completely from the ground. Let us consider this is cold air mass and this is warm air mass. This is moving in this direction and this is coming in this direction. As we know, the cold air mass moves forward and forward, it lifts the warm air mass, and here also cold air mass comes, and he and as the cold air mass moves faster than the warm air mass, what happens is, it will occupy, cold air mass will occupy the whole position of the warm air mass. This is also cold, this is also cold, and the warm air mass will be located here. Then here also cold front is formed, here also cold front is formed, and the cold air mass is lifted completely above the ground. So this type of front helps in the creation of what we call as temperate cyclones. During temperate cyclones, uh, the cold air mass moves fast. Sorry, this is not first, this is fast, please make correction. This is fast. The fast movement of cold air mass completely replaces the warm air mass, and the warm air mass, this is, let us consider this is ground. Cold air mass is located here, and cold air mass is located here, and warm air mass will be located here. The warm air mass is completely lifted above the ground, and this leads to circulation, like, and it will create temperate cyclones in the temperate latitudes. Remember, this cold air mass formed between 30 to 60 degree, and warm air mass warm air mass will be represented, um, warm air mass rises above. Whenever the fronts form, warm air mass rises above and it will bring precipitation in that region. This is all for today. Thank you guys. If you have any doubts, please let me know in the comment section. Thank you.